Dear Miss Anna, dear Zsuzsanna, dear Tamara, dear Miss Florence and Francesco, Mr. Kemal, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us for another DEİK Balkan Talks webinar, which will be held in cooperation with EBRD. Today we will talk about investment opportunities in the Western Balkan with the participants from EBRD, and then we will listen to a success story by Mr. Kemal Güleryüz from Gülermak, who is the former chairperson of the DEİK Turkish-Poland Business Council. To begin with, its foundation in 1991, EBRD has been promoting transition of the market-oriented economies in the countries of Central Europe and as well as Central Asia. So EBRD is contributing young and developing market and countries. For last 9 months, we have been all experiencing unexpected situation about COVID pandemic. We have seen the border closures, guarantees, restriction on the people access markets, including food and medical things. For a couple months, the world has been getting normalized, actually transforming, and we start to know what is the new normal. As economies recover and new opportunities emerge all around the world. So there's a kind of new world about economy also. Looking at EBRD's response to COVID-19, it's planning to a sharp rise in the financing for the Western Balkan for this year and step up support for reforms and help region deal with economical impact and of the coronavirus. So coronavirus is really giving a kind of chance for young and developing countries like Turkey and Western Balkans. For our relationship with the Western Balkans, I have the privilege to stay among the others. The Western Balkan have a special importance for DEİK, thanks to Turkish historical and cultural affinity and geographical position and free trade agreement with those countries. Turkey and Balkans have really long relations, and we know each other actually very well. So this is a chance that we can all grow together, because in the new system, one country cannot grow together. So we need to have partners. So for Turkey and Balkan, I think we are very good partners to grow together. Besides, DEİK has adopted a duty of informing the Turkish business people about business and investment opportunities in the region. That's why we are holding this webinar today in cooperation with EBRD, talking about new opportunities in the region. And personally, I know EBRD is also giving good support, not only Turkey, all Balkan to have better growing. So they have same aspect as Turkey to grow Turkey and Balkan together. As a result of the increasing interest of Turkish investors in the Western Balkan, Turkey has become one of the leading investors in the region, therefore an important partner cooperating for third parties. The relationship between Turkey and EBRD goes back its founding in 1991, and EBRD has run over 310 projects in Turkey to this date, investing more than 12 billion euro, supporting business and organization from agriculture to energy. After the outbreak, investment and loans will be essential to have key industries and SMEs remain stable and grow. So EBRD will have crucial role for recovery, particularly these economies in short and long term in the future. Also, Turkey's role and importance global economy will be surely continue and grow. I am sure that all cooperation with EBRD will continue after the pandemic. Turkey also in other countries, especially those in Western Balkan regions. I think there are many opportunities that EBRD and Turkish investors can cooperate in the region. We should find a win-win situation for investment, particularly for infrastructure construction project in Western Balkan, when Turkish enterprise and EBRD can create a perfect synergy, because we are young market, we are hungry market. There's still for everything we need to buy Turkey and Balkan things. So why we don't work together and we have together growing. So now I would like to give floor to Ms. Anna Draskovic, Director of the EBRD Business Development Group, for opening speech. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bayram, for this wonderful introduction. And I can only echo your words that ties between Turkey and Western Balkans are really strong. And today we will just try to make it stronger and even more fruitful. What I would like to do is, first of all, thank DEİK for hosting us today. And I would like to wish a very good morning and express my gratitude to all the participants listening to us. And from my end, I just want to provide a very brief introduction on who EBRD is and what do we do. And then I will hand over to my colleagues who will walk you through our Western Balkan stories and opportunities. So in a nutshell, just a brief overview of who EBRD is. We are a triple-rated institution owned by 69 countries and 2 intergovernmental institutions with 30 billion capital base. I'm not going to go through too much through history, because we are here to discuss future, but what I want to share with you is that we operate across 38 different countries. And today we are discussing Western Balkans, but should you be interested in any other of these countries, and the presentation will be shared with all of you afterwards, please get in touch with us. We will be very happy to help and support Turkish businesses. These are some numbers on our investments. You can see that actually Turkey is very high on our list of investments, and this number is steadily around and above 1 billion euros. Finally, I just want to mention briefly some of our products and how we can support your expansion. We can do it via debt or equity products. We have excellent TFP products as well. And many of our projects are actually supported with a donor component due to strong interest of donors in transition and expansion in our countries of operation. So I'm not going to go into too much details, because our idea is that you come to us, and after this webinar we set up one-on-one meetings and discuss your individual priorities. These are the contact details of me and my colleague who is also helping us set up this event from business development side. And I think now I will leave you in safe hands of my colleagues who are super knowledgeable on the region, and we will be here in the end to answer any questions. So I think I should introduce the team that we have today here. So I'll start with Mrs. Zsuzsanna Hargitai, who is our director for Western Balkans, covering many countries, extremely knowledgeable for the region. We have with us Tamara Tosic, who is in charge of agribusiness for the region. We have Florence for our M&S activities, and we have Francesco, who is in charge of energy. So maybe we can now start. So maybe over to you, Zsuzsa, and the floor is yours. We can't hear you for the moment. I think you need to unmute.
Did not know. I was saying teşekkür ederim. Anna, let's go into Western Balkans and how we see Western Balkan potential and what is it that we can do together with you. I think that my slides are with DEİK. If you could put them up for me, I would be ever so grateful. Is there maybe a hiccup? Shall I go ahead and we'll wait till the slides
Yes, Dr. Bushra, if you can maybe help us with the slides, if you have them.
Here we go. I love history, but I did not want to put up a picture that would take us back many, many years, but this is emblematic. Western Balkans, we talk about a region which is small, very well located. It contains 6 countries with all the logistics issues that it may entail, but it's a region that is developing and its economic growth is accelerating. And this bridge, yes, it comes, Anna, as you know it, from Belgrade, is emblematic because this is where we want to take the Western Balkan countries on the ride to the 21st century where we live in already, not forgetting the beautiful cultural heritage of the past. Could I have the next slide, please? Anna has already said a few words about EBRD. Let me, before I take you for a trip to Western Balkans, a business trip to Western Balkans, say a few words about EBRD proper. Where do we see our key strengths if you come with us to this business trip to Western Balkans? We take a long-term perspective. We have been in the region now for 20 years. And also when it comes to investments, business prospects, we would be our partners. We would be our partners because we work, as my colleagues will outline, on a commercial basis with the private sector and very much client-oriented. Client-orientedness also applies to our work with public sector counterparts, be them governments, municipalities, or public utilities. And we have developed over the years, we bought it, developed it, structuring expertise so that it meets the needs of an investment project and our clients. Important to say that we are partners of governments and we are seen as such, because once you decide to invest in these countries, foreign investors are warmly welcome, Turkish investors are warmly welcome in the Western Balkans, and it's relatively easy to come in. Operations might present some challenges. If you finance with us, we will be there for you for the term of your investment and help you as challenges may arise. We are trying to also to shape the environment, the investment conditions. We try to advocate and then support policy reforms so that private investment can flourish. And again, my colleagues, especially Francesco, might illustrate it in the area of energy. What is it that we are doing to green the energy sector in the Western Balkans and bring in private sector investors? We have a network of offices. Altogether, you can rely on the expertise of over 100 people in the Western Balkans, again, present in each country with boots on the ground, as we would use this term, and be there for our counterparts, business partners, to be there to explore the Western Balkans, finance together investment projects, and help with the implementation. We are present in private sector, we do a lot of public sector projects, and we have financed some of the best PPPs in the Western Balkans, just to mention 2 for the last 2 years, Belgrade Airport concession, and also the Suez-Itochu public-private partnership for a solid waste investment in Belgrade. We are also able to mobilize financing in various ways. My colleagues will also dwell on it, whether it's through syndication, parallel loans. We've got a vast network of local commercial banks with whom we are working, both for SME financing, but also on parallel financing of investments. What are our objectives? The big ones in the Western Balkans, almost foolproof. We want to support a competitive economy that is also sustainable and green, integrated in regionally as Western Balkans, in European value chains and global value chains. Of course, I think, agree with you that without good economic governance in the countries, private sector would suffer. So we are supporting economic reforms and best economic governance, whether at the national level, municipal level, or at public companies. We are also for equal opportunities, creating opportunities for jobs and growth for young people, women, focusing also on underdeveloped region. And we are, as Bayram Bey was saying, we are living in the times of COVID, so it's extremely important that we have this economic resilience for the periodic crisis to come. Next slide, please. My colleagues are just an illustration, and you can go ahead with showing the sectors we are living in. We are financing that EBRD is basically present in all possible economic sectors. If you click on the slide, they will also pop up. It's transport. All over the place, you see all these areas. Again, what we are not doing, probably, and colleagues will correct me if I'm wrong, is social infrastructure. We have provided financing to date, you see, close to 14 billion euros. And we managed over the years to provide this financing close to 60% to the private sector through commercial banks or direct financing. Our annual business is growing. I was too modest to put there in the slide that in 2017, our annual financing was 800 million euros. And now there is a growing need and growing opportunities for us to provide financing because of the COVID crisis response, but also responding to demand from the market. We may, I very much hope, we shall reach 1.5 billion worth of financing in 2020 alone. Anna already mentioned the wide array of financing instruments that we are using, supporting private sector clients, and my colleagues will give closer examples. Now, looking at the portfolio, you would tell me why you do well on private sector when in your portfolio it's sustainable infrastructure that is dominating. First, there should be a caveat, and my good colleague Francesco will talk about it. And I have already mentioned PPPs that we finance. So under sustainable infrastructure, it's not all public sector. We are mobilizing, we are supporting private sector investments in infrastructure. Again, Francesco will tell more about our successes and plans in renewable energy, which is of particular interest for private investors. Financial institutions, yes, we have taken equity stake. We are providing trade facilitation for our network of partner financial institutions. We are providing them with specialized credit lines for SME financing or green energy financing. And 70% of our portfolio is direct financing for private sector in industry, agribusiness, ICT is emerging strongly, as well as property and tourism. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Western Balkans, we talk about a region, but of course there is differentiation. Overall in the region, there is fiscal stability and debt to GDP, that is what's missing. Debt to GDP is around 60% in most countries. Montenegro is a bit stretched more, or other countries, but again, there are healthy economies. There are stable local currencies, or as it is the case with Kosovo and Montenegro, there is euro. And as we see it now during the crisis, there is a good, resilient banking sector. Especially we could see it with our partner banks. They learned all the lessons from the crisis of 2008, 2012, as it is the case in Western Balkans, and they can face the current challenges represented by COVID. Economic growth is not strong enough, but it's picking up. In 2018, 2019, across the region, GDP growth has been between 2.5 up to 4.4%. The latter represented by Serbia and strongly driven by a project also known to you, Turkish Stream. But we believe that with better economic governance, attracting private investment, this growth level can double. Alas, GDP contraction is what we forecasted for 2020. Western Balkan is not immune to the COVID impact. Contraction will be, depending on the country, between 3.5 up to 9% for the countries that are highly exposed to tourism, but we still have optimism, depending on, of course, about second wave and lockdowns of COVID. But if it continues as it is today, we expect a strong recovery in 2021 at 6 or 9% growth. GDP growth drivers, yes, they have been major public investments in transport and energy, but also increasingly FDI. What we would like to encourage is for you also to come to the Western Balkans for the opportunities and to support economic growth. The 6 countries in the Western Balkans, they all have EU aspirations. Now, they are at different phases with their EU aspirations. Some, like Serbia and Montenegro, are already negotiating EU accession agreement. Albania and North Macedonia are expected to start negotiations by the end of 2020. And Bosnia-Herzegovina, Kosovo are still working to meet the criteria to be able to be eligible for such negotiations. But EU brings with it a lot of good things for foreign investors. Increasing alignment with EU policies and directives. That also helps, by the way, to create more what we would like to see a regional market. They have access to EU market. They are already deeply integrated with EU markets. And last but not least, the region benefits from EU funding in order to support investments in the areas of transport, energy, digitalization, SME support. Again, an additional boost. Depending on negotiations for the budget for the coming 7 years, pure unadulterated grant financing for this region could be to the tune of 14 billion euros. Key structural reform areas I have to mention because private investors care about the investment conditions, and what we see together with our colleagues in the EU is public administration, judicial reform, improving further investment conditions, not only in legislation, but also in implementation. And there is also an ambitious plan in Serbia to develop capital markets. Strategic priorities for EBRD, and we believe it chimes with the aspirations of the countries in the region, is increased private sector competitiveness. I will not go through all the details, but again, 2 key areas where we would also like to invite, and we need Turkish expertise in the Western Balkans. One is to promote innovation, digitalization, new vibes. Number 2 is help us to educate the labor force. It's still there, but we are working with governments. If you come with us, we would work with you to get the skills levels of employees to the level as required. Yes, there is a lot of talk about available cheap labor force. Now we would like to upgrade the skills of labor force, and we rely on you, private sector, to come in and work with us. Further upgrade in public infrastructure is needed. In particular for regional connectivity. I have just been on the phone, sorry for being a tad late, Anna, with the Commissioner for Enlargement of the European Union, and we talked about the ambitious economic investment plan for the Western Balkans, where one of the themes would be further to boost north-south and east-west connectivity. Green agenda will be extremely important in the Western Balkans. Yes, we all know about climate change, but what we hope it will bring to us is also jobs, new investments, and innovation in all those areas. Yes, the pictures I put up there also to further entice you in this lovely region. Next slide, please. Could I have the next slide? Yes. So I would like to focus a bit on green because you will hear
We can't hear you anymore, Zsuzsa. We are probably having some difficulties with connection. Let me check how we can reach Zsuzsa to continue the presentation. Apologies for this.
Tamara, are you ready? If any problem, maybe you can start.
Yes, I was about to suggest maybe I could go ahead and we can continue. Let me just share my screen. Does everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Anna, can we go with Tamara or wait?
Yes, we will go ahead with Tamara and then Zsuzsa will join us. Something is wrong with the line. So Tamara, please go ahead and we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay, so we continue with Tamara.
Great, thank you, and merhaba, and teşekkürler as well. So again, my name is Tamara Tosik. Good morning, everyone, from a surprisingly sunny London. I am part of the Ebrd Agribusiness, so food and beverage sector team. So let me give you a few words first on what we do, and then I'll move to the topic of hand today, which is where we see investment opportunities in the Western Balkans. There we go. So who are we as an agribusiness team? We are the single largest private sector investor in our region, in our sector, in our region, and certainly in the Western Balkans. We have a portfolio of over 3 billion euros, working with both large multinational clients as well as local champions and others. We work effectively, we believe, with our country team, so Zsuzsa's team in Belgrade, and we also have dedicated bankers and senior people on the ground in Belgrade. So Western Balkans especially is also close to us. It would be not bad to mention that we also have a long history in our team of working with Turkish clients. We have supported Turkish companies over the decades in terms of their expansion to Russia, to other markets. Some names that you might know are Şişecam, Anadolu Efes Group, and Migros, for example, who we funded both in Turkey but also in Kazakhstan. In the Western Balkans, in our sector since 2010, we have invested just over 670 million euros. That's been mainly in Serbia as the largest country in the region, but also we've done quite a few transactions in all of these markets, so can comment on them. We focus in these countries, part of it is encouraging foreign direct investment, be it hopefully from Turkey or from Western Europe. A few examples there on the screen. For example, we have supported Lidl, or rather Schwarz Group, in entering the Serbian market with its retail outlets. And we've supported the acquisition of the leading Serbian beverage producer, Knjaz Miloš, which was acquired by PepsiCo and Czech producer KMV. We have, of course, supported a Turkish client as well, Sutaş, in their operations in North Macedonia. However, I must say we haven't seen so many Turkish companies in our sector investing so far, and hopefully that will change. As well, also to mention, we do have, in addition to our financing, we have an advisory business, which also, as Zsuzsa mentioned earlier, there is a need for capacity building. There is a need for looking at ways to strengthen resilience along supply chains with suppliers and farmers. So we do work a lot with companies in this area. Now, in terms of where we see investment opportunities in our region especially, there is an overall theme, of course, in the sector. There is no getting away from the post-COVID world that we live in. And we believe investors should look at businesses which are defensive or can be COVID-19 resistant, both in terms of having local supply chains, having sufficient defensive sales channels that can be used, especially in periods of lockdown and restrictions. We've seen food retail and food production in general have a high demand. However, consumers are still looking for, health. They're looking for wellness. They're looking increasingly for organic, and of course, businesses will need to build up and accelerate the buildup of online presence. In terms of Western Balkans opportunities, it would be difficult not to talk about primary agriculture. In Serbia in particular, it has a long history of agriculture production in terms of both size of arable land, over 5 million hectares, in terms of the fact that 90% of it is privately owned as well. However, there's an opportunity to grow this sector in few ways. One is in primary farming across crops. You have a very small land plot still. You have a lack of use of modern technology for improving yields, and also a lack of irrigation. This is now being worked on, by the way, by the government, and Ebrd is involved. I'm sure Zsuzsa can mention as well. So we see opportunity for investors to go in and develop this. For example, Middle Eastern group Al Dahra acquired a large agribusiness a couple of years ago. The second area where we see opportunity is looking at the region as your production hub or export hub for the EU markets. Zsuzsa mentioned various trade agreements, etc. In these countries, you can find a lot of advantages, a lower production costs, still quite skilled labor for food production at the least, and also access to raw materials. For example, for confectionery sector, have a great sugar production, as well as access to a large consumer market. At the end of the day, it's still 18 million people. It is a sizable market, a little bigger than Istanbul, but still sizable. For example, Swiss chocolate producer Barry Callebaut invested or announced investing in Serbia last year for quite a sizable chocolate factory. And we understand there, again, there's the access to raw material, lower production and logistics, as well as the confectionery sector there. And lastly, it's worth mentioning that there are still pockets of subsectors where there is consolidation yet to happen. For example, in the bakery sector, there's been increasingly interest from private equity, from the local companies to buy smaller bakeries and really build up a platform. So we can talk about a number of subsectors, but there's definitely opportunity there. And again, Zsuzsa mentioned as well, and she can of course comment, and we are always happy to look at deals and find ways that we can contribute to support investors, whether that is acquisition financing or helping you with greenfield production establishment, and of course also providing very tailored instruments. So I think I'll leave it at that. Again, if you have any questions or comments on the agribusiness sector, please ask in the Q&A, or you can reach out offline. Thank you again for everyone's time, and I'll maybe let Zsuzsa continue as well. Thanks. I think Bayram, you're mute.
Okay. Thank you very much for your nice talk, Tamara. And I think Zsuzsanna can continue with her presentation.
We can't hear you, Zsuzsa. We see you now, but we can't hear you. Okay, maybe we continue. Yes, we'll continue with presentations from Florence and Francesco, and then we'll have you in the end to take the questions.
Okay, let's continue with Florence then. Florence, you are mute, I think you need.
Okay, now let me try to share the screen.
Okay.
So thank you very much for your interest in EBRD's operation, and it's my pleasure to present the operation of the bank in the manufacturing and services. What are we covering and what are we doing? We do about between 800 and 900 million euro new business every year across 62 projects, and all our projects are in the private sector. We operate today with a portfolio which is very large, as in the agribusiness sector, and we are close to 3.7 billion at the end of last year. What sectors do we cover? It's quite diverse. It covers the automotive sector, chemical, retail, steel and non-ferrous metals, building materials, forestry and paper, healthcare and pharmaceutical, and a number of smaller sectors such as the aerospace sector, which actually is taking off in the Western Balkans. As you can see, Turkey plays a very important role in our operations, and it covers about 25% of our portfolio as of the end of last year. In terms of sector, steel is very important, so is chemicals, but forestry and paper and healthcare and pharmaceutical have been sectors that have been growing quite fast over the past years. Some examples, and you will see a number of companies that you know, including some Turkish companies such as Arçelik. What are the instruments that we are using? We do provide mostly debt, but also we have been very active in the bond market, in the Schuldschein market, which is a separate instrument from the normal bond market, and equity, including portage equity, which can be very relevant for investments with large sponsors who are looking at EBRD to provide political comfort. And that has been an instrument that has been used in particular difficult countries, in particular in the CIS. We provide funding towards CapEx and working capital financing. We provide guarantees, and we tend to focus on local and regional projects. Objectives is to boost competitiveness with capacity increase, cost saving, research and development financing. But more and more, the green economy has been the key focus of our operation. And when we look at a project, we always try to see if there is a green angle. And what do we mean by green angle? It's trying to see how we can limit the impact of the climate change and improve environmental performance. We're always fostering improved financial management. Corporate governance is coming very high in our list as well. Transfer of skills, restructuring and refinancing are also areas of focus. On the green economy, the reason why I wanted to mention it is that in the manufacturing and services sector, this is more and more relevant. It's quite likely that this year more than 50% of operation will be meeting the criteria of our green economy transition strategy, the second strategy of which has just been approved by our board, and we hope it's going to be approved by our shareholders at the next shareholders meeting. Our objectives is to mitigate the impact of climate change and to support existing client or new project in meeting over time Paris Club targets. The key levers are that the investments are targeted towards resource and energy efficiency improvement, a strong focus on circular economy support and initiatives, and development of low carbon pathways and strategy, in particular for the energy intensive industries such as cement, steel, and the chemical industry. In support of these efforts, the EBRD is able to mobilize climate finance that support longer-term financing, reduce the cost of the financing, but also provide technical cooperation fund that allow companies to benefit from expert advice. Not the least point is the TCFD, which is implemented now within Ebrd, as we have published our first TCFD report. We are also supporting clients in developing strategies to report on climate change through the value chain, which also is critical in financing strategies designed to start emitting transition bonds or green bonds. List of projects that we have financed recently, and maybe some examples. We have financed CPH, Chemie and Papier Holding in Bosnia-Herzegovina. We have financed a pharmaceutical distributor in Kosovo, a green project, which is targeted at recycling, which is a small project, but very strong impact. We have supported Titan Cement across the region. As you know, cement is a very energy intensive industry, and this project is very interesting because through Ebrd participation in a bond issued at the corporate level, so at Titan Group level, we are supporting their green investment across the region, including the Western Balkans. But also we are working with Titan towards developing low carbon strategy in each and every plants. We are supporting the group in developing environmental and social action plans and disclosure on key ESG targets. We believe this is critical as we're able to support Titan in their effort in the long term to meet Paris Club alignment, but also the targets that have been published by the cement industry globally, and hopefully also support Titan in their targets to issue green and transition bonds. Another example which I think is particularly interesting is a project that we have done in Bosnia together with our longtime partner ArcelorMittal, and we have financed a joint venture which is recuperating the gas from the steel plant to develop a CHP, which is providing heat and power for the steel plant, but also which is supplying heat and power for the city of Zenica. And Zenica, the city, is also a partner in the project. And what is particularly interesting is that the Ebrd, because of the very significant climate impact, has been able to mobilize climate finance where the interest rate is reduced in proportion of the CO2 impact that the project has. So there is direct financial incentive towards implementation of the project. We have financed the TerraPlast group in Serbia, Romania, and Slovakia, and SIAD in Serbia, which is a project that was closed very recently. Our contacts, I would like in particular to point to my colleague Hande Islak. Hande is based in Turkey, and I'm sure many of you from Turkey will know her, and I would certainly encourage you to get in touch with Hande in Istanbul. She is certainly a very an excellent point of contact for development of operations with Turkish businesses, and also my colleague Patrick Boszewski, who is covering the region and based in Warsaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your nice information, Florence. Can we continue with Zsuzsanna or we continue with Francesco?
I think we still can't hear Zsuzsanna, so we will continue with Francesco, and we are trying with Bushra to fix at least a phone line for Zsuzsanna.
Okay, thank you very much. So, floor is yours, Francesco.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm trying to share my screen. Hopefully you can see it, my presentation. Yes. Okay. Okay, so my name is Francesco Corbo. I am regional head for the energy team in the energy EMEA team, part of the Sustainable Infrastructure Group. I'm based in the Western Balkans, basically in Skopje, which is a place which is rich of still and increasing contact with Turkey from a historical, cultural, and economic point of view. Been introduced a bit from the green topics from Zsuzsa during her presentation, so I wanted to give you a bit of context of where we are. So this is a kind of snapshot of what is the situation of the energy sector in the Western Balkans. So these graphics should give you quite clear pictures of what happened and where we stand now. Although this graphic stops in 2017, not much investment happened after 1989. And the lack of investment in new production in the past 20 years is still quite evident in the region, which is heavily depending in coal and hydro. What is needed is a new and clean generation capacity from wind and solar, of course, but also from other renewable sources. And the main topics that you will hear me repeatedly say during this presentation will be green transition and decarbonization. These are two words which I will be repeating because our strategy in the region is to quite clearly and strongly be around these two main words. Why we want to do this? Because we want to push very strongly in facilitating a new renewable investment, for which we are cooperating with several countries and governments in the region to deploy auction schemes that should be able to attract foreign investors and with a competitive scheme which allow the countries to get renewable energy at a competitive price. We are giving a lot of emphasis to just in transition to support the decarbonization, and as I mentioned, the renewables, it's one of the instruments that will be supporting with all our strengths. Transformation of the electricity sector is also central because also renewables we need of the transmission lines, distribution, and we will need the decentralized operators that will be not only the state-owned utilities that are incumbent in the region and owns majority of the production, but we need also to perceive a new market mechanism and ownership models that will decentralize the ownership of the production to different parties, and also introducing not only an energy mix, but also market coupling of neighboring countries and regional integration, which will bring together all these countries and will allow a cheap energy to be deployed all over the countries. Together with this, as mentioned in the transmission and the distribution, we'll have to invest in demand-side technologies like smart grid and electricity storage, which will basically improve the performance of the renewables. What is our strategy? Again, you see three main pillars of what we are doing. Green transition and decarbonization is our main pillar. So what we have done recently, we scale up the share of renewable energy, and we provide technical assistance in Albania, North Macedonia, Serbia, and Kosovo to introduce renewable energy auctions. This while to attract competitive price private investment in the sector and to reduce the overall cost of electricity. Together with this, in order to achieve the decarbonization and reduce the thermal power plant that are running lignite, we are foreseeing that the penetration of gas is an important aspect of this transition. Therefore, we are supporting Albania, Montenegro, and Kosovo with their gas master plans. We are supporting feasibility study for gas storage in Albania and gas transmission in Albania, and transmission and distribution gas in North Macedonia, which the tender was probably to some Turkish company already well known, and we received some good interest from Turkish company in applying a bidding for this tender. The last point of this pillar is just in transition. We have started recently a pilot project in Macedonia. The just in transition is, let's say, directly related to the just transition to the European Union, which basically will take care of all the coal mine regions, which slowly should be lose their importance in the energy production, and therefore create social and economic issues for the different countries, which the EU would like, together with us, to address. So we are starting to do a diagnostic of what would be the impact of closing the coal mines in those regions, and how the workers and the economics that are related to the coal mines will have to be impacted, and how the workers can be, let's say, reskilled to other activities. So this is an important part of our transition, green transition that we envisage for the region. At the same time, as I already mentioned, the development of the energy market is an important aspect. So we are improving infrastructure, like, for example, smart grid. In Montenegro, we supported the distribution company owned by EPCG, which now has been renamed as CEST, to roll out the smart metering system, which will be completed by beginning of 2021. And will, let's say, connect more than 85% of the customers with smart metering. So this would be an achievement for this country, which would bring, let's say, the average of customers connected to smart metering even above the European average. And this is something that we are trying to do on the other Western Balkans countries, and there would be a lot of interest for companies to apply for tenders as well. Again, together with this, the cross-border interconnectivity is an important aspect, because the Western Balkans is a very fragmented market, which we are trying then to put together and to integrate initially among itself, and then with the neighboring countries, with the Italian bloc, through the interconnection between Montenegro and Italy. The submarine cables that probably some of you have already heard is a 600 megawatt cable that will connect the coast of, that is connecting actually and operating the coast of Montenegro together with the Italian coast. The Serbian market, it's also connected there, because Serbia, it's something that, sorry, just one second. Just, my son just entered the room, sorry, just one small second. Sorry. Coming back, the Serbia market will be connected then with Italy, because Serbia is connected with Montenegro and with Italy, and they can easily export the electricity to Italy, as well as interconnection between Kosovo, Albania, and North Macedonia, that it's under construction, and between Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, and Serbia, that is under, let's say, assessment. At the same time, we are supporting gas pipeline feasibility, where basically we are envisaging the connection between Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and together with Kosovo to the Albania or North Macedonian gas pipeline. We are also supporting the study and the technical design for the Ionic Adriatic pipeline. That should be the continuation of the Trans-Adriatic pipeline that we recently financed. Finally, the last let's say, pillar of our strategy is improving governance. So we work as well with state-owned utilities, and we have provided energy sector reform package and new power law support in Albania, when we refinance the short-term loans of cash, as well corporate governance, environmental and social practices with the Serbian utility apps, is support to the gas and to the Bosnia and Herzegovina gas market. this is in brief, what are the, let's say, our flagship project. So in 2016, we financed the first non-sovereign loan to a distribution company with development of smart metering. In Montenegro in 2015, we financed the first wind farm after 30 years of no new investment in new production capacity. In Albania, we financed and supported the first larger scale tender for solar, about 140 megawatt, which was won by a French developer called Vitalia, which offered an incredible price of 2.5 euro cents per kilowatt hour. In Serbia, we financed the largest wind farm in the Western Balkans, Dolovo, 108 megawatt, and Kovačica, 104 megawatt. We'll have some study case on that. In Kosovo as well, we financed the first wind farm and the first large-scale generation capacity in the country after many years, with two wind farms, one of which the sponsor is also a Turkish well-known company. And in North Macedonia also, we supported the first large-scale PV plant in the country on a coal mine pit. And at the same time, in the same coal mine pit, we are tendering 100 megawatt. The tender is currently open. We are tendering 100 megawatt solar for attracting private investors that should offer a certain amount of the revenues as a PPP with the incumbent operator ESM who owns the land and the substation. I can give you separately more information about this tender. This is what we are doing in the gas sector. It's a bit of the pipeline, what we are doing, and what we think that could be financed in the upcoming years. So the Ionic-Adriatic pipeline, we're supporting Altgas, as already mentioned. Tap capacity expansion should be something that we'll be envisaging in case the Ionic-Adriatic pipeline became a reality and all the countries, they close their financing scheme. We are supporting the Kosovo gas master plan, North Macedonia gas interconnection feasibility study, and the national gasification program in North Macedonia, as well as the distribution line. I have here three very brief showcase for our investment. These are the two wind farms that we finance in Serbia. IFC and DEİK, they were together with us in the financing. Masdar and Taleri, they were the sponsor of this investment, with DEİK taking also an equity shares of this. Kovačica is the other investment that we supported with allied Israeli investors that built the wind farm here in Serbia, and at the same time also they've been the first wind farm in Kosovo, together with Güleryüz Group, which has built the first ever wind farm in Kosovo after many years, an additional capacity alternative to the very polluting thermal power plant that is insisting in the Kosovo energy system. The last case is the 10 megawatt in solar in North Macedonia on the dismissed mine. Here you have a map, and all this area will be dedicated to the tender. Here is the thermal power plant with the substation. You can see on the pictures, and all this will be tendered to private investors that will be sharing a part of the revenues with the incumbent operator by providing in kind the substation and the connection point. Here as well, some Turkish flavor with the EPC contractor, which is Girizim Electric, which is providing all the support to the state-owned utilities that has limited capacity until now in developing solar project. These are my contacts. Sorry for the little interruption. So happy to answer to your question going forward.
Francesco, thank you very much for your nice information. And Zsuzsanna is ready to continue with her.
We still can't hear you, Zsuzsa.
Okay, so we continue with success story with Mr. Kemal Güleryüz from Gülermak. So he has a good story about EBRD cooperation. So the floor is yours, Mr. Kemal.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, everybody. I am so sorry for Zsuzsanna. I hope she can recover that. But I will continue. I want to say that I am the only person here who's not directly, organically a part of EBRD. But on the other hand, I feel that I am a part of the EBRD family because not only my sector, my country, certainly the Western Balkans and many other places in the world is supported by EBRD. And EBRD brings quality to our sector and many other points. I want to say that as such, I am very grateful to be here. I want to apologize offhand that the presentation prepared for me has a little bit too much about the company, so I'm going to pass through that a bit fast, but I will give you a little bit of information about Gülermak as well. Gülermak is a family company that has, if you look at it at a glance, is a 60-year-old company. We are specializing very much in infrastructure, in mass transport, in metros, railways, trams, and tunnels, and similar projects, as well as other sectors, but this has been our main focus in the recent years. We have branched out to Poland, where we finished Warsaw's Metro Line 2. Recently, we did a project in Dubai. We are in Sweden, certainly in Turkey, of course, with many, many metro references and similar references. And recently, we've also ventured out to India as well. I'll just show you two flagship projects to give you an idea of the scope of what we can deliver. Here, we're looking at the recently inaugurated Dubai Metro, which is a collaboration between Gülermak Acciona from Spain and Alstom from France. This was a 15-kilometer project with 7 underground stations. It has very interesting characteristics, complicated, of course, and as you can see, quite aesthetically beautiful. But on the terms of sustainability and many other important factors, it's also a landmark project. And here's another one from Warsaw. We finished this back in 2013. This is the central line in the beautiful city of Warsaw. We are currently very active in Poland and will continue to do so. Now, before I talk about these two projects that are coming up, which I would like to discuss a bit more in detail, I want to say what makes it special about EBRD. Being a part of these projects. EBRD has a very large ecosystem, and any project that they put in their view and would like to get involved with goes through a very strict due diligence process. And it doesn't only look at, of course, what the value of the project itself is, but it also is concerned with various other factors such as sustainability, and during the carrying out of the project, gender equality and many other factors which come into play with respect to that. And they pave the way in a way for other financing institutions to get involved. EBRD has what is called an A loan, B loan structure. So by the way, I would urge you to look at the comprehensive website of EBRD that details this very well. But in essence, an A loan is where EBRD first comes in, may target up to 35% of the project. And then other institutions may follow. They will certainly depend on the due diligence that is already being completed by EBRD. So it makes it, on the one hand, a safer environment for other financial institutions, but also an easier environment, knowing that EBRD has already gone through this due diligence process. As I said, beyond finance, there are issues. We talked about environmental sustainability, social impact is important, safe working conditions are important, and these all are to be adhered to by not only the investing authority, or as well as the contractor itself. Now, let me share with you the first project. We are looking at Istanbul, a metro project on the Anatolian side, which is currently being carried out. It's a large project, 13 kilometers long, 13 stations. And I have to say that it's a project that has a long history. At a certain time in its history, it was practically at a standstill. And us and our joint venture, together with the company Nurol, had to actually wait, basically, up until certain problems were solved, the most important of which is financing. And EBRD came in with an A loan, B loan structure and did the due diligence, was able to provide up to 175 million euro together within the scope of the A loan, B loan overall. And that's a significant amount of financing, of course, which allowed us to restart with 4 tunnel boring machines and 13 stations in a very congested part of Istanbul. You can see the photo there where we are able to access the ground in one of our most comfortable settings, actually. Generally, we don't have that much space. This is, as every part of Istanbul is, this is a very congested and populated area. And when you consider the traffic problem worldwide, but especially in large cosmopolitan, highly populated cities like Istanbul, you can understand how important it is to not only build as much of these projects as possible, but to do them as quickly as possible. So we are very happy and grateful to EBRD for supporting us on this. At this point in time, I also want to reach out and express my gratitude to the Turkish team of EBRD, led by the wonderful dynamic efforts of Mrs. Şule Kılıç and her team. I am very, very grateful to them and to the larger ecosystem of EBRD in supporting these projects. Another one is Izmir. Again, we are looking at a metro project. This is currently ongoing as well. We are contracted to do this on our own, 100% without a JV. It's got 7 stations and will be, when completed, about an 8-kilometer project. EBRD took the initiative here as well. They came in with an A loan, 80 million. And then other banks, of course, followed suit to allow us, hopefully, to finance the whole project. And we are working at our fastest and most confident scheme to try to finish this and put it to the service of the people of Izmir as quickly as possible. This is basically all I have to say. There are other areas in the world where we are in continuous contact with EBRD, and I would urge the whole contracting community to do the same. We are looking at PPP projects as far away as Kazakhstan, which is a very important, I believe, landmark for EBRD. The Western Balkans are so close to us, and we have such historical ties. And as such, I have taken a lesson from today's exercise to put my attention to this part of the world as well. And together, hopefully, we'll continue to do many wonderful things. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kemal, for nice story about EBRD and your company. And is Zsuzsanna ready to talk, or what can we do?
We were trying with Bushra to fix it, so let's give it one more try. Can we hear you, Zsuzsa?
Let's give it a try.
Yes. So this illustrates work with EBRD. We never give up. Please, Zsuzsa, speak while we can hear you.
We want to develop business with Turkish private sector investors. Apologies for the technical mishap, but
no problem.
With support, we have overcome it. A lot of ground has been covered already by my colleagues. Let me focus perhaps on 2 or 3 additional things. Number 1 is that, and perhaps again in the audience there are those of you who would be interested also in opportunities for supply contracting. Francesco already mentioned one. So again, EBRD, as I said, we are financing a lot of public sector projects as well. Apologies for this detour from private investment financing. So we are leading the way to build the peace highway together with our colleagues from the EIB between Niš and Pristina. And we are about actually to sign our loan agreement for the first segment. Our colleagues also who work with Anna, but also just visiting ebrd.com website, you will see a lot of procurement opportunities. Corridor 5C is the road corridor that goes across Bosnia-Herzegovina, a flagship project in the Western Balkans, where we hope to close the whole financing for this demanding corridor by the end of 2021, and still a lot to be done, what is called Corridor 8, which is running through North Macedonia. Francesco talked about private sector investment in energy. I would like to mention also not only procurement opportunities, but also investment opportunities. A new port of Belgrade would be built. Essentially what is envisaged to be done is public sector investment for some essential infrastructure, and then potential concession afterwards coming up in 2022-2023. We have already worked with Global Port Holding in the privatization of Bar Port in Montenegro. We hope we can have also interest from Turkish port operators for the new port of Belgrade. We will be financing wastewater treatment plants, renewables in district heating companies, regional solid waste centers. Again, a lot to be done, a lot of procurement opportunities there. We have already been there. We are there for Tirana and Belgrade airport concessions. But as some of you might have followed the news, Montenegro has been considering concessioning out the ports of Podgorica and Tivat. And believe me or not, there is strong thinking nowadays about concessioning out Sarajevo airport. So there are opportunities for private investors also in the transport area. I will not go into details as Francesco has covered extensively renewable energy investment opportunities. Next slide, please. Tamara, Florence, Francesco have already listed most of these groups. I would like of clients and opportunities. I would like to invite those of you who are active in the ICT industry and property and tourism to take another look at the Western Balkans. Of course, it's not only me, we have teams that are dedicated to these sectors to have another look. Here you see we have worked with Highstead, GTC, and CTP Investor. We just signed a deal with them for developing industrial parks in Serbia. So we would love to talk to you about opportunities to invest in property, office buildings, industrial parks, tourism facilities across the Western Balkans. The other three companies are there to flag our interest in investing together with you in ICT industry. There will be a lot of investment going into broadband, digital highway interconnection. United Group is our client, a regional company, major media platform, broadband provider. HTech is a software company. So we are not afraid of financing also asset-light companies. This is a merger of two Serbian companies we financed. We signed a deal just a month ago in Serbia. And Kujtesa, an ICT company in Kosovo. There is also an opportunity to participate in the sale of IPCO in Kosovo as well. But all across the region, there is much buzz going on in the ICT sector. For all these considerations, as my colleagues outlined, and I mentioned before, access to EU markets, as well as for certain countries, free trade agreements with Russia, Turkey, you know that of course you are aware, the free trade agreement between Serbia and Turkey, and the European Free Trade Area are an additional advantage. We are looking at opportunities, would be happy to discuss with you nearshoring trends, how to bring productions closer, how to source for Turkish companies from the Western Balkans and build up capacity with the local companies to supply you. Logistic services are much in demand, and we are seeing logistic companies coming into this corridor northwest and hopefully then for the east-west connections. And as I said, we are there to work with the private sector to develop skills so that you can get the best of skills at affordable price in the Western Balkans. And I think it's the last slide that should be coming up. Could I have the next one, please? it's an important slide because it shows that we work across a wide array of countries, and it's a very important slide because you can note our contact details. So whether through Anna and the team or contacting me, my colleagues who have made the presentation, we are open for business, not only in Zoom. I'm still touring for the time being Serbia to meet clients. We are open for business for you also during these times. Thank you ever so much, and apologies again for the technical hiccup.
Thank you very much, Zsuzsanna, for your nice information. And I think there is some questions waiting for us. Would you like to answer them, or how we do about them?
We are at your disposal. We have talked a lot, so it's time for you to take the floor.
Okay, so there is one question coming. They ask us, would EBRD consider to be a part of the Sarajevo-Belgrade highway as a financing? This is one of the questions.
Would you be so kind to repeat it? Which highway? We have so many.
Sarajevo-Belgrade highway. Is EBRD thinking to be...
Okay. So, what do we know about it? And it's a good question because what we understand is the case is there is an intergovernmental agreement between Serbia and Turkey to finance this highway through Turkish Exim Bank.
Yes.
Now, we can be part of these things except that Exim banks typically, well, this is their mandate. They support their suppliers from the country. EBRD procurement is open tendering. So if there is direct contracting and direct financing, it does not match our policy of open tendering. So alas, we would not be able to join it unless, again, go to the market and tender it openly.
Okay, I think this question is for you, Anna. Are there any project in your agenda related marine structures like breakwaters, jetties, quays, harbors, marines on the region in the Western Balkan? Are you supporting or are you giving financing this kind of project in the region?
I think I would divert all Western Balkans related questions to Zsuzsa, because she knows the best which projects are happening and which are ongoing and what are the opportunities.
I understand Zsuzsanna is only a part of the Serbia region. Okay.
No, all the Western Balkans.
Okay, okay.
No, Anna has the whole world. I have the whole Western Balkans.
Oh, okay.
Only.
Okay.
Bayram Bey, if the question was about whether we are supporting wastewater treatment, and yes, the answer is yes. So we signed a loan to the government of North Macedonia for Skopje wastewater treatment plant, and we are working on a major investment. Again, it's 80 million euro plus for a Serbian Batajnica wastewater treatment plant. Yes, this is one of the area. We would be supporting, I mentioned one particular large PPP that we are financing. It's under construction in Belgrade for solid waste management, landfill, waste to energy facility, and we are developing further such projects in the Western Balkans between Serbia, North Macedonia, Bosnia-Herzegovina. Typically these projects, again, Belgrade has been an exception, but typically these projects are public sector projects. So we help with project preparation, we provide a loan to public sector, and it's out there. If there is interest from Turkish investors to do with PPP, we would be very happy to explore it.
Okay, another question is about hospital project. You know, Turkey have very good health system, and especially in Turkey, private hospital give also big support to, you know, Turkish health system. So also some of the Turkish companies asking, do you have any project planned financed by EBRD in the Western Balkan region, so we can grow together in Balkan, because we can really export as a Turkish health system.
Has not been explored, but there is potential. Again, let's talk. We would be interested. Florence knows the area well, what we have done in Turkey, but I would suggest that we have a little bilateral talk exploring it, because there are large hospital projects being envisaged. Notably, I have just talked to my country manager in North Macedonia, but similar projects is being born in Serbia, but let us talk about it, of how to structure and have the brainstorming with the relevant government.
Okay, and I have my personal question from my side. You know, there is, from Europe, there is so many European Commission giving support to the countries who will be a part of the Europe. So can EBRD guide the company? How can they reach to that kind of financing together with you? So do you have some success stories about to tell the people? Because some companies really don't know how to write project to get European, support. I know lots of companies can get that kind of support without, refund. Is there any way EBRD is helping companies about this kind of support from Europe, which we can get? Do you have a kind of these projects to help?
No, directly not. Directly not. Directly not, Bayram Bey. The EU provides support to the private sector, at least in 4 different ways. And I'm happy to sit down with you and talk it through in detail. Number one, they support advisory services, but this is not what you are interested in. Number two, they are providing a kind of, we call it blended finance. So for instance, if we finance through a local commercial bank, the financing could be a blend of commercial loan and an EU guarantee, 15–20%. Again, we can talk about it. Direct support to medium-sized companies does not exist. So one has to go through commercial banks to get this kind of additional grant support. There could be support, and we have been discussing it with colleagues in the European Union, for PPPs, so that it lowers the overall cost. They would be coming up with a major guarantee scheme. Again, de-risking some of the projects. I'm happy to talk to you to go into details, but no, individually to help companies, I shouldn't think we would have the capacity to steer companies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it was nice webinar to understand EBRD and Western Balkan, and I think there's no more questions. So thank you very much for everyone to be a part of this webinar, and I hope all the participants enjoy the meeting, and we wish face-to-face meeting soon in Turkey. I hope in the healthy days we will be welcome to Turkey to meet face-to-face people and maybe know better. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you very much. And just one last point from my end. We will send all presentations to Bushra because we were getting some questions about presentations. So all of you who are interested will be able to get presentations from DEİK. And there was also one question from Agun software company, also related to hospitals. Please get in touch with us directly, and then we will talk to you directly. So thank you all. Thank to all my colleagues. Thank you, DEİK. Thank you, Mr. Kemal. It was lovely to meet you today as well. Thank you, Bayram Bey, for fantastic moderation, and hopefully see you soon in Turkey or in Western Balkans. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.